Sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will crush my soul. No, wait. Sticks and stones may break my bones. Will never hurt me. Sorry. I got that last part wrong. I don't know the origin of that children's phrase or that little saying, but what a pernicious lie for young people to believe that words have no injurious effect. On the contrary, isn't it the power of life and death are in the tongue, and that words are utterly powerful? Good morning, and welcome to my daily walk, the half-hour daily podcast where some anonymous Hollywood guy walks around and talks about everything and anything, except, of course, the things he can't talk about because he's, constricted by a non-disclosure agreement, contractually obligated to conceal certain things. But I can talk about a whole lot of other things. Anyway, so good morning and welcome to day one of week 2. I meant to, before I left the house on my walk, I meant to go over my list of topics for the week, but as I was running a little bit late for my daily departure, I neglected to do so, but I think I can off the top of my head recall. Today's topic is really about words and how they come into being and how they enter the dictionary. That's kind of the topic, really. Well, we'll get to that. But later in the week, I don't know which order in particular, but I am going to spend one episode talking about, I believe I mentioned at some point last week, I have like 7 different projects I'm working on. I mean, I could list 10 more than that, but I've just pulled that number off the top of my head. But I think I'll go through the top 7, quick overview of the different projects that I have on the back burner, in the hopper, whatever the expression is. So 7 topics or 7 projects will be one day's episode. Maybe that's tomorrow. It's tomorrow or Thursday. I do think Wednesday I have reserved for the topic of bloodlust. What exactly is that? I treat it as a kind of a virus or a disease, a disorder, a sickness, something abnormal. Bloodlust. Then Thursday, I'll just the subject or the topic that I wrote down is 100 billion nuclear bombs. We'll just leave that right there. And I think Friday, you know what? I'm not going to project. I'm not going to say what I think Friday is because I might be wrong, so I don't want to mislead you and then lock myself into a topic. So anyway, there's some of the topics that I'll be talking about this week. So last Friday, topic I left off with, let's see if I can remember this. What was it? What? Oh yes, meeting the author. So if this is the first segment that you're listening to and you're interested in, last week I discussed meeting the author, talked about writings and certain stories, a book that I'm reading, and plus some ancient texts that make some pretty incredible claims, and how it is you can verify those claims. I mean, really, meeting the author would be the best, but if it's in the past, what can you do? I don't remember where the conversation went last week, so if you're interested in that at all, go back and listen. Oh, before I get too far, I do want to mention the email address. I guess in every episode, it has been established. I haven't tested it yet, but by the time you hear this, it will have been tested. Email address, if you want to get in on the conversation or suggest topics or, tangents, it is, you can email me at MyDailyWalk at thiswaytv.com. MyDailyWalk at thiswaytv.com. All right, so let's see how far into this we've gotten. All right, that's not bad. Usually it's about 8 minutes in before I actually get back to the topic that I teased at the top, and now we're just shy of 6 minutes in. This is a work in progress, and I am walking and talking and will get out of breath. I've already I did my daily run this morning. That would be a podcast that no one would listen to. Just feet running and heavy breathing. But I will try to be cognizant not to sigh and inhale and exhale into the microphone. So, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will crush my soul. That's the intro that I thought of this morning. I'm like, does that relate to what I wanted to talk about? Yes, it does, kinda. Maybe it's a better tease or a misdirect. But really the topic last week or the week before, I was thinking about where ideas come from. Ideas. So that's related to words. I mean, you communicate ideas through words. There's no other way. Written words, spoken words. And the way we speak about ideas, I had an idea. A thought occurred to me. Well, which is it? You had an idea or a thought occurred to you. Is that the same thing? We use it the same. And, for all intents and purposes, it is the same thing, but the way we express it actually means something different. And which would be more accurate. I had a thought. So in that case, or I had an idea or thought. The word thought and idea is interchangeable in this instance, but so I had an idea. In that instance, we are laying claim. I am the originator of this idea. I have an idea. But then the thought occurred to me, or an idea occurred to me. In that instance, we are not laying claim. I mean, we are, because, it's still self-referential, occurred to me. But when something occurs to you, it starts outside of you. It has to originate elsewhere, right? We are asserting that this thing just happened to me. I was driving along, minding my own business, and out of nowhere, this truck just blows past me or cuts me off, or there's an external world of events, of agencies that are causal and bringing things about, bringing things into existence or bringing things about. And so the notion that a thought occurring to me, I think, even if linguists will say, it's just kind of metaphorical phrasing, it's just a way we have combined words to get a point across. It doesn't really mean it happened to you. It's just another way of saying that you originated an idea or it originated from within. I kind of disagree with that notion. When a thought occurs to you, I would argue that it originates, long pause while I think this through. I'm not saying that we are not originators of ideas, that humans are not. But I think it is irresponsible to assert that's the only source of ideas. So when a thought occurs to you, very often it's something you've already heard somewhere else. It's perhaps you were processing something and you were putting two and two together, maybe two different points of view or something you were listening to, and it strikes you at a certain moment. It just comes back to you from your memory, and maybe you don't consciously recognize that's the process happening, but we don't really know how we work, how this complex machine really functions. I mean, we are machines, very different machines. We have some kind of power source that's not, okay, but we won't get into metaphysics and all that right now, but we don't really understand how the mind works. There's plenty of theories and lots of good theories and theories that you can apply that help you move forward in life. But we are very complex, and I don't just mean physiologically. That's, we're astronomically we're astronomically the most complex systems in existence. The human body and mind. There is no match. There is nothing, no comparison anywhere in the universe, not even the most powerful processor, supercomputers. It's just, I don't want to go out on a limb too far, but there's nothing comparable to the human machine, and that holds true also for each individual having our own experiences and processing and how we respond to stimuli, things that we love, things that we hate, things that we care about, things that motivate us and drive us forward. It's just this incredible. Every single human, I believe, would benefit from therapy. I would say therapy has this pejorative connotation now. Well, maybe it's always had the certain stigma attached to it, but what is therapy? It's just talking to somebody. It's just talking to an expert or somebody who's trained in listening, trained listeners, and they're also wise they're able to interpret or see objectively, where it's impossible for us to see objectively. If you have a therapist that is worth their salt, they can remove, they can separate out the emotions that cause some of your thoughts to be cloudy and your conclusions to be irrational, etc. Okay, so I haven't seen a therapist in a while, and I'd love to. And if you're listening to this, you might say, yeah, you better get in there real quick. But the bottom line is, talking to someone who is wise. So we're on this tangent. The fact of the matter is, I believe we too often lay claim for the ideas in our heads, even though I would say is irrefutable that we are one source or a source of ideas. But what's the ratio? What percentage of things that we say and act upon can we lay claim to, and what percentage are ideas that were put there from elsewhere? Some influence, whether it's a teacher, an artist, a friend, an authority over you who has taught you some things, and ideally you will have processed everything you're taught and ferreted out anything that is wrong or irrational. I think humans tend to have a pretty good I'd say we're fairly competent truth detectors once we've processed in multiple sides of an issue. I get back to mathematics. 2 plus 2 equals 4, 2 plus 3 equals 5. These are things we don't have to argue over. We've already processed it. If somebody proposes an alternative result or alternative conclusion, we can readily disregard it. But how would we? How could we possibly consider all sides of every subject that we've ever been presented with? So there's a certain we intuit as humans. Man, where is this going? Yeah, this extemporaneous babbling on and on. Getting back to the origin of this topic, where it originated, I was actually looking in the dictionary, or to ideate, looking in the dictionary. I was looking for a word. I'm like, is that a word? Where'd that come from? And it was during the process of thinking about where ideas come from. Where do ideas come from? And to ideate is in the dictionary, and forgive me for not having memorized it, but it pretty much just means the process of coming up with ideas, or that process when you have an idea, to ideate. And I asked myself the question, well, if you can ideate, that means there is an ideator. The ideator would be the one who ideates. Logically, in the English language. And so I'm like, well, is that even a word? Ideator. And my dictionary app, there was no ideator. There was ideate was there, but ideator was not. And so that tense of that word is non-existent, at least according to my dictionary app. And so I got to thinking about, how do words come into existence? The same way ideas do. You're trying to convey a concept, and sometimes language is just not there yet. Language itself grows and develops. There was a time when anti-disestablishmentarianism was the longest word in the dictionary. In my lifetime, that was the longest word in the dictionary at some point, but I believe it's been passed up now because it's probably some technical term now that's actually entered the dictionary that's longer than that. And of course, supercalifragilisticexpialidocious is not actually a word, so. But ideator is not a word, even though ideate is. And so enough of the idea is there to where the word can be expounded and expanded. And maybe if ideator comes into the common usage, like I can use it and you will understand what it means, even though it's not in the dictionary. But it's not a commonly used word. But that's how words come into existence. It's like saying, in a way, it's akin to saying, how much is a thing worth? How can you determine the value of a thing? It's like this trick question. How do you determine how valuable a thing is? Give you time to contemplate that. Some people just already know the answer, but how do you determine the value of anything? Well, it's however much someone's willing to pay for it. That's it. That's the bottom line. Whatever the market will bear. Well, similarly, how do words get their meaning? How do words get their meaning? It's however a person uses it. However a person uses a word injects it with meaning, whether it's a word that already exists and then a new usage of it, or a new tense, or a new... it happens all the time, every day, all the time. And the mere fact that the dictionary adds new words every year, I don't know if it's an annual thing or even more common than that, but language is constantly growing and changing. Some definitions are becoming archaic and falling out of usage. Others are coming into existence. And for example, and this I doubt will ever be in the dictionary, but someone very near and dear to me now, when I first met them, used the word hugantic. Hugantic. I knew exactly what that person was referring to, or the meaning. But hugantic is not a word. It's quite simply a combination of huge and gigantic. And it rolls off the tongue. It's kind of, and that actually happens all the time. You listen to people talk, and they'll say things, whether it's words themselves or sentence structures. And you generally, even though a person's syntax may be way off, or even pick the absolute wrong word, context determines meaning. Generally, you understand. I mean, if they use a wrong word, absolutely wrong, and it can be confusing, and usually is, or often is. But context determines meaning. So when you can take any word and put it in a sentence, like the other day, I took my, let's see, come up with a ridiculous example. The other day I took my fire hydrant for a walk. He loves it when we go out walking around, wags his tail and sniffs the trees to see what his buddies are up to. My fire hydrant is just this amazing creature that, I love and cherish. Every one of you know I'm talking about a dog, okay? And so context determines meaning. That's how words get their meaning, and slang is, just, I still use words that I used when I was a kid. Cool is one that I don't think that will ever go away. But then, like, tubular, right? That one, you say that in front of a modern teenager, they'll be like, excuse me? Tubular, yeah. So, it's the capillary action happens in these thin tubes that, the water or the fluid, whatever okay, yeah, tubular is an actual word, but it, was also slang at one point. So some words stick, some don't. But that idea, that notion of where ideas come from. We humans are ideators, even though that word's not in the dictionary. It's true that we do have thoughts and originate thoughts. But I contend, even among the thoughts in our heads, we are not the sole ideators. When a thought occurs to you, it's coming from somewhere else. And again, I don't know what ratio, I don't know if there's even any possible way to measure these things. I'm just thinking out loud here. Truth. Truth is a word that some people, it's like, yeah, duh. I think, I don't know, maybe the vast majority of people are like, yeah, truth. Yeah, we understand that concept. There's truth and there's falsehood. But there are actually some academic fields that avoid that word at all costs, such as history or science. It's, well, we don't use true, well, I guess science maybe does true and false results. But, for example, I was talking to this historian, and we were going to go talk to another historian together. And the one historian, before the conversation, pulled me aside and said, so when we're talking about this, try not to use the word truth. these things are true, because historians are looking back in time, going over documents, and they would say uh, they would use terms as, gosh, I'm going to butcher this, and email me if you don't like what I'm saying, or want to correct me. But a historian prefers to refer to things as the likelihood, or accuracy, or probability, the probability that these things happened. This would seem to be a probable event based on these corroborating sources. Okay, so the word truth is just not, it's true, it really happened. Okay, so there's this threshold, this line they won't cross. They just won't use the word true. And me, it's like, I know exactly what happened. Look, this says it, and it's true. So, but that's it's a sticking point. Now there's a difference between lowercase t truth and uppercase T truth. Like, are there absolutes? Are there things that are not subject to interpretation? Is there such a thing as an absolute truth? And I'll say it right here. I believe so. I mean, I believe we all recognize undeniable truths, that there are certain things that are absolutely wrong. Torturing babies for the fun of it, right? For the fun of it. Like, I mean, I can't even imagine a scenario where doing that at all could be right. But when you add the for the fun of it, that somebody takes pleasure in that, I think that's there's a unanimous verdict that is an absolute truth, that is wrong. Okay, so that's just saw a friend of mine. I'm gonna avoid him. Oh well. Counting down. 2.5 minutes. All right, so I've gone far and wide, far afield of the subject, the topic. What was it? Sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will crush your soul. Words have power. You better understand the words that are coming out of your mouth, because you can destroy people, or you can give them life. And that's kind of my goal, my kind of one of my life goals, motto. Do good, do right, be kind, speak truth, speak life. That's a good kind of additional thought. It's just because the thing is true doesn't mean you have to say it or have to interject it. Truth is uncomfortable and can be actually damaging. It can hurt people. But, just like pruning a tree or pruning a bush, cutting away the things that actually hinder a plant from reaching its full potential. Let's just say that. Being pruned. So that's cutting. It's actually a destructive action. Well, speaking truth is similar, or can be similar. And I would say, hold your tongue until you've thought through how. Those big how you speak, how you're uttering the words, because it's not just the words. Not only are you an ideator, a source of ideas, but you are a creator. You speak things into existence. You are Imago Dei, is that the phrase? That's going to be one of my topics. We'll get to that. But we all have power in our tongues. Let's use that power for good.